And here is Johnny on the Spot.
Meet this consummate singer-songwriter for the ages, all ages. Hear about seemingly inconsequential moments that changed his life. But more importantly, he has great hair. Meet Stephen Michael Schwartz. Good morning. It is morning here in lovely Bakersfield, high above the sequestered towers of the Wood Tower here in Bakersfield. I have a lovely guest today. His name, hold on, I have to read it to get this properly because he has three actual names to his name. I barely have one. It's Stefano Miguel Schwarzenegger.
En mi familia hay cinco
Wait a
personas.
minute, hold
y
on,
mi
it's the
papá
wrong.
y dos
It's
hermanas y yo.
Stephen Michael Schwartz. How about a big round of applause?
There we go. Hello,
Stephen,
John.
how are you, buddy?
I'm good, man. How are you doing?
Good. Welcome to Johnny on the Spot. I'm Johnny, brought to you by Turtleneck Productions, because as we all know, I have a turtleneck. Somewhere there's a turtle with a people neck on. Think about that for a minute. How you doing, buddy? You had a big I'm catching you on the cusp of having a major concert.
Oh yeah. Wow.
You came out of retirement by I was noticing on the internet you had a great turnout, sold out, right?
Thank you. Yes. Yes. Actually, it was all adults, which is pretty rare for me.
So the babysitters made out.
Yes, exactly.
And you had it looked like, from what I saw in the pictures, it was kind of a potpourri of people from the different areas of your life,
Exactly.
or as I say, the seasons of our life. And what prompted you to put that concert together?
It's a combination of things. I think I was off the road from doing children's music. You know, I'd been for the last 10 years doing touring China
Mhm.
with all of the music that I had written with Parachute Express and then on my own. And everything sort of closed down at that time. And I started looking back at my catalog of music. I started as an adult artist, writing and singing when I was 17, 16, 17, playing all the clubs in Los Angeles and New York. And then I had a record deal on RCA Records. So that's really where my beginnings were. And I put them aside when I started with Parachute Express, and that lasted for 30 some years. And I'm sure we'll get into that conversation. But going back and during the sequestering and the situation with COVID, I started to look back at some of those songs. I went, wow, these are really good. Some of them, some of them
Yeah.
I never want to play again. But I anyway started to put together a group of songs. And I thought, I'm going to go back out and play for adults again and see what that feels like. And it was scary. I can't tell you how nervous I was. Much more nervous than playing for thousands of children.
Yeah.
And but it really turned out great.
Now, so the how did you choose your songs, and how long was the set?
Great question. I was these days, I guess the gentleman who owns the club, his name is Bob Stain. You may remember him. He owned the Ice House
That's right. That's right.
for
I
a
do remember.
long time. I mean,
I think
back
we
years.
auditioned there years and years
Yes,
ago. Yeah.
exactly. We all did. We all played and hoped
Yeah.
that Bob would give us a slot somewhere in
Yeah.
on his stage. I mean, he was instrumental in having the Smothers Brothers become an act. Without Bob's input, I don't think the Smothers Brothers would have
Yeah.
broken the way they did. Anyway, so back then I opened shows for the association and comics were big back then at the Ice House. So Bob then retired, and then he bought a place called the Coffee Gallery backstage, very close to the Ice House in
Ooh.
Pasadena. And he basically asked me if I would be interested in doing a show there. And then that's when I started putting these songs together and going, oh gosh, what do I do? So I did a chronological order of
Okay.
my songs. I did about a 75-minute set, which felt like a long time on
Yeah. Yeah.
on the stage when you're doing children's music.
Did you have
you're
to
only-
pace yourself? I
Oh,
mean,
totally.
it,
Totally. I was like a marathon runner, you know.
was it like Rocky? Dun, 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 dun,
Yeah,
dun,
that's right.
running on
Cut
the
me, Mick. Cut me.
running on the beach. Your wife going, no more. Come
Yeah,
on,
exactly.
Michael. You can do it. Come on now. Not that your wife talks that way. I'm just saying.
Oh, you know, she does actually.
Okay, well, that's great. She's sweet.
So, yeah, so it was a chronological order. I went from the birth of my birthplace called. I wrote a song called Victorville, and I went from there to my high school reunions in a song called Where Did I Go Right? And I just carried on all the way down to the latest song that I had written, which was just about 8 months ago. So it was really fun. And then at the end, I brought up Donnie and Janice from Parachute Express,
Oh, wow.
and we sang a song together. And I haven't sung with them in 8 years.
Yeah.
So
You know what?
we've
I
been
got to tell
retired.
you,
Yeah.
you guys are holding up great. I mean, it's like, did you have moments of twinges that we're gonna let's get the group together, let's get back on the road, or did that pass after you laid down for a
No,
while?
no, no. No, no. There were moments where we looked at each other and it was like, you know, it's like this feels so it's like an old turtleneck,
Yeah,
which is like the one you're
speaking of
wearing.
old turtlenecks, yes,
Yes, right. And
right.
no, it just felt like an old sweater. You know, we
Yeah,
were back,
yeah,
felt comfortable, and you know, who knows what'll happen. Say yes until you have to say no, right?
that's right. No, that's how you get an acting gig. Can you ride a horse and also sword fight? Yes, I can, Your Honor. Yeah, like whatever.
John, I've been there.
Yeah.
I actually did that for a commercial. I told the people who were interviewing me, this was when I was a kid, that I could ride a horse, and I couldn't. And it was for a Chef Boyardee commercial, and I was hired with a bunch of other kids who were, in fact, extraordinary riders. And we were up at Vasquez Rock, and the producer's up there, and he's saying, you know, get ready, you know, and he's on his bullhorn. He says, action. And all these kids, along with me, rode down on horses down Vasquez Rock. And I'm holding on to the horn of the
Oh man.
saddle and I'm jumping back and forth. And they go, cut, cut. What are you doing? You know, it's very clear that I am not a horseback rider.
Right.
So anyway, but I
And a
lied my
big and
way.
a big setup too, right? To get everybody back up
It was
Vasco.
terrible. It was terrible. They clearly knew that I was not a rider, but I got a job.
I I uh I went to a horseback riding stable out in gosh, where is that? Out in Santa Clarita, someplace like that, a long time ago. And they said, "Have you ridden horses, boy?" Nah, not really. He goes, "Well, we'll give you a real mellow horse." And so I got on the horse, and it's da, 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 toddling along. And all of a sudden, the horse got a whiff of the stable and food, and like a bat out of hell, the horse is running down a highway. The horseshoes or sparks are flying up, and Pam is going, "Hang on,
Yeah.
no kidding, I'm hanging on for dear life." So yeah, I think that was the extent of my. We have a cat coming through, cattail.
Love cats. What's your cat's name?
This one is Finnegan. I have another one named Archie, who's named after Harry and Meghan's kid. And so there he goes. That's one of my. I was born in England, as you probably remember, and
Yes.
that's one of the hangovers from holdovers from.
It was a hangover, actually.
That
When
was
you
a
think about
slip.
it.
I'll tell you that right now. I'm curious
Yeah.
about a lot of things. What you just mentioned there. I did listen to that song. Where did I go right? It's one on another interview that you did, and beautiful song and beautiful in. I love your choice of chords. You obviously know more than three chords. I don't know how you made it in the rock business,
I
but
know.
it's gorgeous chords, and the message is superb. And I'm realizing as I've gotten older, as you start to reflect on your friends and as you are obviously in the songs and what you're doing and the sliding doors of our lives, right?
Mm,
The
love
choices
that.
that we make. And it comes out in your songs. I was very impressed.
Thank you, John. That's
So
very
I
sweet.
stole your song. I put my name on it. I'm doing really well in Thailand right now. I want you to know
Hey, you sound like the people in China. All of
that.
my music's there, and I have no idea if they're paying me or anything. I doubt it.
Yeah,
But
Dan Crow, as you know, Dan Crow,
sure, very
he
well.
has some of his stuff in Russia. How's that going for you? You know. Now, how did you
Yeah.
you got a recording contract at a really early age compared? I mean, I guess a lot of those 50s artists got, contracts when they were in their teens, but for the period of time that we were all doing our thing, you were discovered, as it were, at a somewhat early age.
Exactly. And it's as we were talking, I did all the clubs that you've done, the Ice House, the Troubadour. I played the Troubadour many, many times. They had that hoot night on Monday night
Yeah, yeah.
um, back in the early 70s. I was in high school at the time playing. I was also in a bar mitzvah band. So while my friends, oh, Finnegan, you are so sweet. Finnegan's little tail is just like
I know.
adorable.
I don't know. I think he's mesmerized by your voice.
Oh.
So forge
I have
ahead.
a I have a cat too, and our kitty's name is Hemingway, and
Oh,
Hemingway
great.
just sits and stares at me. I can't figure out what she wants. It's a
Yeah,
girl, by the way,
yeah.
and yeah.
Right.
So
Come on.
there's
You're gonna do something. You're gonna step on the wrong button. There you go. Sorry. Go ahead.
no. I was saying. So I did all the troubadour and all the clubs, and I would go to New York, and I'd go to San Francisco, and I'd just hone my craft. Um, really interested in songwriting. That was my main thing.
Yeah.
I was, I felt like I was a good singer, but I really wanted to be known as a songwriter, the Jimmy Webbs of the world.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
uh, anyway, and of
Who is
course,
still going, but it's still going on, by the way.
unbelievable.
You know.
John Lennon, Paul McCartney. Those were, of course, we talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
Uh, our heroes. Um, at the Troubadour, I got discovered, got handed a card by an RCA A&R guy. And those were the days when the artist relationship guys would go to all the clubs and look for
Yeah.
talent. So I had
Mm.
one particular set that I guess I did really well and came up to me afterwards and handed me a card and said, please call me. One thing led to another. And I ended up signing with RCA Records I was 20 years old at the time and made my first album. And Michael Omardian,
Yeah.
extraordinary piano player, and Larry Carlton, extraordinary guitar player. They were on the show on the record with me. They arranged the album
Can
songs.
you get any good people?
No, I couldn't. David um, David Kirschenbaum was the producer who later went on to produce Cat Stevens, and I mean,
Jeez.
so I was really a fledgling green, but I was learning on the spot. I was at the studio where Elvis had recorded, where Ray Charles had recorded, and I felt like this is I've made it,
Yeah.
but of course I hadn't made it. I just made one album at that time. Anyway, but I went on the road. I opened for Paul Williams on a bunch of concerts, and and I was learning at 20 and then 21, and then I just this was what I wanted to do, and I knew that
So,
even against my parents' better wishes.
yeah. Well, that bar mitzvah band was about ready to take off.
Totally. Yep. Joey
Okay.
Sharp and his orchestra.
We're we're on hold here. Come on. Well,
Exactly.
now I'm imagining you on the road with Paul Williams. I don't exactly see him trashing hotel rooms.
No, Paul was an interesting guy. I really liked him. I thought he was again, he started out as a songwriter. He
Yeah,
wrote that
true.
classic We've Only Just Begun.
Yeah.
And then he ended up, he was a personality. So he ended up with a television show, summer replacement show, the Paul Williams show. And I was lucky enough to be a part of, just being on the road with him. And sweet guy.
You know, I'll show some photographs throughout the process here, and
Oh, cool.
I'll be showing the one where you have the classic vibe on the album. I think it's the back cover of your album. I'm thinking of the classic look in those days of the young rock star.
Oh, God.
Uh, most of them didn't have talent, and you did. So
Thank you.
Tiger Beat magazine and
Yes.
all of that type
Yes.
of stuff, you know. No,
Yeah.
it's when you were touring, a terrific way to, of course, hone your craft, working on songs as you're touring. Did you have a band with you, or were you a solo?
No, I did have a band.
Mhm.
Yeah, I had some wonderful, talented people. One of them, um, who ended up, she was a background singer, ended up being one of the voices in The Lion King. Her
Oh
name is
wow.
Carmen Twilly.
Uh-huh.
Carmen ended up doing um, I forget the song, the opening song with that incredible, um, the sunset
Yeah.
over the African plains, and her voice coming up. And Richie Zito played guitar for me, and there's some talented
Good,
people. And
great
these guys
players.
were,
Yeah.
yeah, these guys were young players at the time, just like myself, and we were all just, wide-eyed and um,
Ready to go.
and then when the record deal, I got a telegram. I was in the middle of my second album for RCA, and listen to this lineup. Talk about talent. D, uh, D. Murray was a bass player.
Mhm.
Nigel Olson was my drummer.
Wow.
David Foster was my piano player.
He could play a little.
Yeah, he's good. And I had a gentleman by the name of Eric Wangberg, who was, they called him Eric the Norwegian. He was producing the album,
Mhm.
and he was Paul McCartney's engineer on Ram. And
Wow.
yeah, so he had come over here and he was starting his career here in Los Angeles. And I loved him. I met with him. Loved him. He said, "Well, Elton John's band's off the road now, after they've just done a couple, they did an album, something of the Rockies. I can't remember, but Elton decided he didn't want to tour. The band was sitting here in Los Angeles. Eric, the Norwegian,
Mhm.
said, "I'll get this band, and we'll start your second album." And I knew David Foster, so I called him, asked him if he would help me, um, put the album together. We were in the midst of 4 recordings an album, and I get a telegram telling me that I've been released off the label.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh.
Yep.
So at that point, the money dried up for the the rest of the album, or
Everybody went home. Everybody, it's
oh,
like there we were. And to this day, I do not know where those tracks are. We cut 4 tracks. They're somewhere in RCA's archives. I'd love to find out how to
yeah.
get those.
I've got a similar but yet different story. When we came down to LA to make an album and to perform at the LA Home Show.
Oh, yeah.
And so during the day, we would do 6 or 7 shows, 20-minute shows, which we never got paid for, by the way, because the backers absconded with the money. And at night, we performed at the record plant. And Joe Walsh and his band Barnstorm at the time
Right.
was our backup band in the studio. And just to show those kind of sessions, the miscellaneous item, the line item, was cocaine, and so there was mounds of cocaine on the table during
No
these.
pun intended, right?
Yes, exactly. And so I remember sitting there. Everybody had fallen asleep or passed out, and we're doing one of my songs, and it's just me and Joe Walsh. And Joe Walsh decides to change the strings on his Martin 12 string. And I'm going, oh God, this is going to take a
It's
while.
going to take a while.
We're just talking, right? And this is, forget tuners and all of that, but this is early 70s. And he's talking conversationally and changing the strings on the guitar. I don't know how long it took, but it didn't take long. He just did it and strummed the guitar. It's in perfect tune. I was more amazed at seeing that as a guitar player, of seeing that done before me. It was a magic trick. It was
Yes.
amazing. I'm sure if I run across Joe in this day and age, he wouldn't remember. It would be a blip in his psyche somewhere.
Sure.
But a similar situation. The album was backed by a couple of doctors. It was never finished. The tapes were in the old record plant. They had a fire. We don't know what
remember.
happened to the tapes.
Yeah.
Probably not. So all that's left is quarter inch or or cassettes of it, and you go, "Yeah, I played with Joe Walsh. Listen, get away from me, you bum." You know,
Yeah,
yeah, you
exactly.
with a turtleneck, sit down. You know. So but I guess our stories are multiplied by thousands.
War stories. That's what we call
Yeah.
them.
So now you've had this big disappointment, obviously huge disappointment. What happened? What did you do next?
I went I I went into a funk,
Uh-huh.
and when you're young, you can't take these things the way you can when you're older, and you go, okay, well, what's
Yeah,
next?
yeah.
So I went into kind of a funk, and I ended up getting involved in acting. And I know, John, you are a multifaceted person as well. You understand that when you're in one form of art, you can easily move over to another form and
I'm
just
omnipresent.
exactly,
Yes.
exactly. You sort of use the talents that you have, and you find out, oh, the one talent I never could figure out was painting. I love art. I just never could do that, but I could act.
Yeah.
So I went into an acting class. I ended up while I was doing some acting, um, and nothing professional at the time, just trying to get work.
Mhm.
Um, I was playing the improvisational theater on Melrose in Hollywood, and I was playing a gig. I was playing my songs, my adult songs, trying to get back into the music business as well as acting. And a lady saw me there once again, calling cards. Remember calling cards? Remember when
Yeah.
somebody would hand you a calling card?
Yeah.
Those aren't around anymore, but people are doing it on their phones these days. But anyway, her name was Eve Brandstein, and she was a casting agent. And she said, "I'm casting for a pilot for a new television show for NBC, and you are the perfect person for this role. Are you an actor?" And of course, I said yes, even though sure, I can ride a horse and sword fight.
Yeah. Are there any horses involved?
She said, "Yeah, it's the role of this young 17-year-old kid who's wants to be a rock and roll star, and I want you to come in and read for the producers." And I was not a very good reader. I'm dyslexic, so I can't read really well off the page. She helped me, and I told her that. I didn't say why I was dyslexic because I didn't know what the heck it was, but
Yeah.
I couldn't you know the words would jump off the page. So she just basically helped me before I went into the producers. She said, I'll meet with you. She said, you're right for this role. I know you are. So just come in and I'll help you. I went in there, I read, I got the part. I was the first person they cast on this NBC show called Please Stand By. And then Eleanor Donahue played my mother.
There
You
you
remember
go.
her from, yeah, from
I was at Father
Father
Knows
Knows
Best.
Best, right?
Yeah.
Dick Shaw played my dad, and then there were a couple other people that were hired as well. But that show, after it got picked up, we ran for a year. So I became an actor, but I was also writing music in the show because that was my character. I also got to write the title theme, so it
Ah,
encompassed
man.
all of the things that I love doing. And suddenly I realized I'm kind of back in the game again, only to have that show dropped after a year. But I was a little bit hipper into how the entertainment business rolled,
Yeah.
and I was a little, I didn't crash and burn. I just went on and did another TV show with Gary Crosby, Bing Crosby's son.
Oh, yeah.
We
Yeah.
did we did a show called The Music Shop, and
Talk of dreams that mean so much. We're so darn close, we can almost touch. We don't know where, we can't say when, but sooner or later the light will shine in, and the truth will come out in a song. We have everybody singing along. Down at the music shop, down at the music shop.
and I did 14 episodes of that, and so anyway, I was trying to figure out how to maneuver
Sure.
as long as I could express myself creatively. That's what I was interested in.
What year was that? Would you say that
80,
Gary Crosby?
79, 80 was Please Stand By, and I think I did the music shop in 82 or 83, something along
Okay.
that lines. Yeah.
Wow.
And it was just a few years after that that Gary Crosby had passed away.
Yeah.
He was an interesting character, very interesting guy. Had a lot of battle scars from being in the entertainment business for 50 some years and being the son of Bing Crosby.
Boy, that story is it's a mini series and a half
Totally.
of the two families
Oh my God.
and how his uh, parenting skills were not the best in the world. But and Gary was the collateral damage
Completely.
of that whole deal. So yeah, really interesting. And as you probably ran across, Gary being one, uh, that the residue in the Hollywood scene, as it were. I find myself now when you see young actresses or actors getting they have a hit movie and they're noticed and it's boom boom boom,
Yeah.
and part of me just goes, ah man, I hope you make it, not in a sense, I just hope you make the longevity of this life trip. I'm coming up with a concept where going to weddings, that there should be a clause that if they break up after 2 years, I get my gift back. And I'm going to come up with that. And I'm going to ship it out. If I have to come to your wedding and give you a toaster, I want that
I
toaster
want that
back in
back.
2 years.
That's
Because
great.
I promised to be with you forever. We'll stay together, and that leads me to my next question
Yes.
of your lovely wife, and how did
Althea.
that all come about?
Wow. That is talk about a mini series. Althea and I were friends when she was married to a incredible songwriter by the name of David Pomerantz. And
Ah,
I was married to a wonderful actress by the name of Wendy Shaw. So David and Althea, that's my present wife's
yeah.
name, and Wendy, my ex-wife, and we were friends. Um, I had been married for 10 years. Our marriage started to falter. Althea and David had been married, I believe, for 11, something like that, 15 years, something like that. Um, and when their marriage faltered, Althea and I got together as friends and commiserated about our life
Is that
together.
what they called it in those days?
That's called commiserating. Yes, exactly. Now it's called Kindle. Or no, what is it? What do they spin
Oh,
dating? I forget what they call it.
it might be Kindle. It might
No,
be
Kindle's what the thing we read, but I forget I forget that word. But anyway, Tinder. That's what it is.
Tinder.
Tinder.
That's it.
Right.
Yes.
That was close.
Tin-
Um,
you have a
Tinder.
tender heart, Stephen. You got a
Yes, I'm
tender
Tinder
heart.
hearted. Isn't Tinder the stuff you throw on a fire to get it going?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the little stuff that
Yeah.
then all of a sudden your house burns down. And you go,
Yes,
I'm
right,
using
exactly.
Tinder. The
So
hell.
so anyway, going back to Althea and I, and David and I were writers. We wrote together. We were friends and partners, and I love the guy. But
Yeah,
I also fell in love with his wife, his ex-wife,
yeah.
when they broke up. So Althea and I
Did
became
the songwriting sessions get a little tense?
Yes, it's so funny. We wrote a song together during the time that Althea and I were starting to date. It was called "It Ain't Love That Walks Away." It's a really
Oh,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you're
It's a
going all
real
Fleetwood Mac.
exactly. It was a Fleetwood Mac moment. Yeah, yeah. So, but I'll fast forward. First of all, Althea and I have been together 38 years, and David is remarried to his wife. I don't know how long they've been together, but they have a child who's like 17, 16, something like that. Althea and I have a son, a 31-year-old son, and Wendy and I had a child when back then who's 41. So
Wow.
yeah. So anyway,
So that makes you 46.
yeah,
Wow. Amazing.
exactly. You do the math.
I would-
It's really a Hollywood story, and it's ended. It hasn't ended. It's been just an incredible uh, um, love affair. The thing about being with Althea that was so great is she understood completely the world of music, the
Yeah.
world of a songwriter, and supported me all through. As a matter of fact, became the manager for Parachute Express. When she saw us in the recording studio doing our second album, I'm sure we'll get back to
Yeah,
talking
you
about
bet.
Parachute Express. But
You bet.
when she saw us in the recording studio, we, Donnie, Janice, and I were not really performing live. We were basically just doing recordings for Jim Baree.
Yeah.
She was in the back. She was in the booth watching us, and at one point she came to me after we had done a take, and she said, "You know, you guys really should take this on the road. You are really talented, and it's right there. I can see it." And we said, "Okay, well, you want to manage us?" And she ended up managing us for all that time, right down through those Disney years, that we were recording for them.
Well,
So,
that's how I uh, met Althea was by phone, by
yes, yes,
seeing if you guys were available for our festival that
the
we were doing
Taffy
at the
Festival,
time,
right?
and talking to her through different times, and she was always terrific, a perfect tip of the spear for you
Yeah,
guys. It just
yeah, totally.
a blunted spear because she was so sweet, you know.
Yes, I
But
hope she didn't gouge you too much in the Taffy Festival
oh
uh,
no, not at all. We
negotiations.
that was I don't think we made a dime off that in 10 years.
I
So my new
understand.
book's coming out, How Not to Make Money in the Children's Industry. No, 38 years. And by the way, you can keep the toaster.
Thank you.
You just blew my contract out of the
Yeah.
water on that.
Well, I think we're rare. It's rare.
It is rare. I'm curious. Is your son? Did your son get involved in? He's 30. Well, you have two sons.
Two
Is it?
sons, yeah.
Are they in the industry at all?
Adam is an extraordinary guitar player. I've used him many
Mm.
times on many sessions, but he's also smart enough to know that there's another life beyond music, and he'd like to balance the two. So he's in school right now. He's getting his teaching degree as a chemistry teacher, and
Wow.
heaven knows we need more teachers out there in the world. And
Absolutely.
he's a marvelous brain and understands chemistry. He could sit and talk about dark holes, and you know he's very bright. So he's doing that along with touring. Like on Monday, he's going to be playing a club. He's in a Grateful Dead band.
Oh wow, that's
And
great.
they play incredible. I'm not a real Deadhead
Yeah.
fan, but I love listening to the music, and they do a really great job. And my son Zachary, 31-year-old, is an incredible producer, music producer, DJ. He's just he's blowing up, as they say in the industry.
Did I see? I might have seen a
He pro-
music vid or something he did, or
yes,
there was something that he did on, and terrific.
yeah, he's really wonderful, and he's producing for other people. He's producing tracks for other people, beats, as they say,
Yeah.
for people who really don't know how to do it, but they've got ideas and they sit in the
Mm.
studio and he creates it. He puts it all together and they come in and then they all sing over it or rap over it or whatever. And Zach's really, really talented. Went to Cal Arts, so he
Yeah.
has that ability to balance the music and the theater because he's a
Mhm.
wonderful actor as well. So I'm thrilled with both of my son's involvement, and they've got heads on their shoulder, which I give Althea and I a lot of credit for that. Just letting them see how we navigate the world of the entertainment
Yeah.
business.
Well, that's great. Raise up a child in the way he should go,
Exactly.
and they'll usually screw you over. Oh, get out of here, you turtleneck guy! You, the heck's the matter with you? So let's talk about Parachute Express.
Sure.
You mentioned Jim Baree. What's the tie-in with Jim Baree? How does that?
Again, just a magical uh, s- um, the way this all came about. When I was living in Van Nuys with my wife Althea, I'm sorry, with my wife Wendy at the time, we had a house in Van Nuys.
Careful when you roll over in bed and
I
say,
know.
"Oh
I
my
know.
God, when little
Oh,
thing."
believe me, it took years when Althea and I were together for me to stop calling her Wendy.
Oh.
At one point she turned to me and said, "That's it, done. We are done." You don't need to do that anymore. And you know what? I think that was
Is
it.
that where that twitch came from?
I'll show you the scars.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was living in Van Nuys, and there was a guy living next to me with his wife out the. Jeez, let me stop.
She's back.
Yes, she's back. His name was Donnie Becker, and he and his wife Adrian lived next door, and they opened up the first franchise called Gymboree. Gymboree started in San Francisco. It was a play fitness program for mommies and daddies to bring their babies,
Mhm.
and it was like a kinder gym. Um, and Donnie opened up the first one in Los Angeles, and it was actually doing pretty well. They were using Beatle music and James Taylor, and they were doing Cat Stevens and
Yeah.
maybe Peter, Paul, and Mary music as background. And Donnie actually, we were taking out the trash one morning, and Donnie said, "Hey, Stephen, you're a songwriter. Would you be interested in trying to put some music together that would sort of emphasize what Gymboree is all about?" And I said, "Sure." I never thought of children's music at all, but
Yeah.
I went over to a class and watched and observed and made notes so that I could put some music together that sort of would help, activity music. So we did so I called my friend Janice Hubbard, who was a dear friend who would travel with me when I was doing club work. She was a great artist in her own right,
Yeah.
great songwriter. Also, she played like 5 instruments: flute, oboe, banjo, guitar. I mean, and she was a great harmony singer. And
Yeah.
I told her about this, and she said, I said, "Would you be interested in just coming and helping us out?" We were never thinking in terms of a band.
Mhm.
We called it Parachute Express because the parachute was an instrumental part of Gymboree. At the end of the gathering,
Mm.
they'd have this big parachute, and the kids would sit on top or they'd go underneath. So that's why we grabbed that. We were actually going to call ourselves Swing Set, but that sounded so much like a jazz thing. So we decided, nah.
Or
let's
an
do the
issue with
parachute.
adult married couples. I'm sorry, I can't find my card.
John, I knew you were going to go there, buddy.
Yeah,
That's
you
just
did.
who
Set
you
me up.
are.
You
Yeah, I
set me
you
up,
I
buddy.
set you up. I'm your Lou Costello to your Bud Abbott.
Luke Costello.
Or
Wait a
is it
minute.
the other way around? Hey.
Hey, wait a minute here. Yeah, Bud Abbott.
Yeah. So
So
anyway,
that's the nucleus of the idea. So you're writing songs, and so were there? Did you record at that time the songs for different Gymborees, or were there different Gymborees at that time?
there were other Gymborees that were opening up. So we thought maybe if we got the okay that these songs were, or in this particular album, it was called Shakin' It. This album worked, that maybe it would work for all the Gymborees. So that really was, we lucked out in that area. We got an okay from Gymboree. They really liked what we did. And that moved us on to the next album, which was Feel the Music. And suddenly our personalities started to come out. The first album, I think it's really Donnie driving it as even though I was writing, a lot of the music, we also used some PD songs. That's public domain for those of you who are listening and don't know.
I'm glad you said that, because now I can nod knowingly
Yeah.
what that
Yeah.
means. Yeah, PD.
Oh yeah,
PD.
PD.
Everybody go to PD stuff. Right.
But Donnie really was the focal point, and you could, when you listen to that album, he's doing a lot of the introductions and the chants and things like that, because he knew how to do the classroom. That was his forte. By the second album, I think we were starting to put a little bit more of our own personalities into it, actually calling each other by name: Stephen, Janice, Donnie. Suddenly that was the place where,
Identity, yeah.
and that's where Althea, sitting in the booth watching us, looked at us and said, "You guys could actually do this live. This could be a thing." At that point, we weren't even thinking of that.
Was she smoking a cigar at that time?
Yeah, that's right.
You know,
That's
you
right.
kids could really go places.
She came out and she came in with her calling card.
They're calling, yeah.
Here,
do
take my
remember.
card.
I do remember calling cards. That's great. You bring that up. So,
So-
how many albums did you guys do?
10.
with parachute. 10.
10. We did six. We did. I'm sorry, 5 with Jimboree, and then at a certain point, Jimboree said, "I think we're done. I think we've got all the music we want." We went. At that point, we were traveling the country,
Yeah.
and we're a working band now. We can't just stop at 5. And it was at that time that, and you'll remember this very distinctly, that children's music, because of Raffi, started to blow up, started to become, suddenly we were in there in the bins with all the rock and roll artists
Yeah.
at Tower Records and things like that. We suddenly became something, a music genre to contend with. And that was great. And Disney called us up, called Althea up, basically, and said, we're interested in signing the band. We've got a record company we're opening up, a division that we're opening up, live artists, and we'd like the band to be the first on the label. And
Wow.
so Althea negotiated a record deal with the mighty Walt Disney Company, and that made things, that went from here with the small Jimborees around the country to, it opened up our career in such a way that we became somewhat of a household name in the world of children's music. And we weren't alone. I mean, there was Cheryl Rose and Bram, and
back then you guys were, they say there's different levels of, you guys never changed. You're always the same, but the way that we all looked at you, we were like the peasants in the field with the there they go. Boy, I want to be like them. Parachute Express. What does that mean? Parachutes haven't been invented yet. I know, but they're royalty. No, you were looked at as royal musicians at the time, and what's funny is the record companies they bought up all these children's artists and signed them all. A&M, different Disney.
Sony.
Label. You remember Craig Taubman was, I think he was on Craig and Company.
Right, Craig and Company.
Disney
That's
back
right.
then.
And
I
so
want
was,
to do an interview with Craig. I haven't talked to him in years. It'd be fun to talk to Craig now. But and then what happened is all the artists thought that they'd go, well, we just have to go on the road. We'll do an album. We'll support the album, and then that whole energy died up.
Yeah.
And then the record companies didn't know what to do. But see, you guys were different because you had a solid foundation with the Jimboree thing built on it, and then an audience built from that was a little different. Some of the ones, they were just lost, as far as
Sure.
what to do.
And then, of course, there were the artists who were pop artists who decided they were going to jump on board to the children's world and
Yes.
try and do children's music, right up to people like, I think Kenny Loggins put an album out, Linda Ronstadt put an album out. Suddenly, everybody was putting children's music out.
Remember, I was a children's reviewer back then, and I would get these, and it really it kind of irked me, that, and then they'd win a Grammy.
Yes.
And you're going, but wait a minute, these guys are in the trenches. They've been doing it, and they really have a love for it. It kind of struck me as, oh, I just had a kid. I'm now a children's artist.
Right. Right.
That whole
It hit me when Tony Bennett came out with the children's album and won the Grammy, and suddenly I went, okay, well, and then soundtracks started to become the big thing.
Yeah.
Lion King won the children's album of the year or whatever. And it suddenly,
or Meryl Streep does the Velveteen Rabbit. Well,
Yes.
we're screwed. We're
Yep,
not.
that's it. That's it. And nothing against those talents, because
Absolutely.
they were extraordinary. But it like you said, the people that were in the trenches doing it for years, they suddenly they said, well, what's the point? It's
Yes.
But we were very fortunate to have Jimboree as our springboard, and we learned a lot, because when we were with Disney, though, I would say the thing that catapulted us to great heights at that point was being on the front of a video of the Goofy movie that went out to 8 million people,
Yeah.
or 8 million people bought it, and suddenly they saw Dr. Looney's Remedy, which was a video that we had shot,
Yeah.
short form video, like an MTV type video that we had shot that Disney had put on the front of that movie as a promo.
Doctor, please come here quick. My big brother is awfully sick. He's got a froggy down in his throat. It's true, I heard it. He can't sing a single note. Whoa, whoa, Dr. Looney, will you fix him up? Whoa, whoa.
And that catapulted us. Suddenly we were traveling and playing large venues like Ravinia, and I think we did a 10,000 seat theater with Bob McGrath and some of the
Sesame Street, was that?
Yes, right.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we were up, as you said, the upper echelon of the children's world.
I'm surprised you're even talking to me right now. I mean, it's, you know, is it hard stepping all over those piles of money and because as we know, children's music is the best way to pay your bills,
Absolutely.
you know.
Absolutely. Yeah. And tongue in cheek, I see.
Yes.
Yes.
Tongue firmly beneath my
placed.
turtleneck. You know, so then would you say that with Parachute Express, you're obviously still good friends,
Yes.
did it just kind of take its course and you guys decided you know, physical therapy was a better way to go? Because you guys did some serious choreography, man, on stage.
It was, yeah, it was pretty intense, and you know, doing 1 or 2 shows a night, or a day. You had to be in pretty good physical shape, and at a certain point, I think, you know, I think it was hard, especially when we would go overseas,
Yeah.
and we did Korea and we did China, and those were long, really tough tours for people of our age. So I think my partners at that point just felt, you know, I think we'll back off on the touring. I wanted to keep going because I adored the road. I did
Yeah.
from the early days of my career, even before Parachute Express. I just love being on the road, and so I asked them for their blessings. I said, "Look, I want to keep doing this. I would like to take our music, and I would like to continue because we had built a audience in China, 2010, I believe, in 2011. It was in 2009, 2010. We went there and did about 15 concerts or something like that, and started to build this. I could feel the groundswell
Mhm.
happening, and the Chinese jamborees are like preschool. They are different than just something that you go to as a extra curricular activity with your children. For them, it is a springboard to, gosh, I keep hitting my mic, sorry, a springboard to their elementary schools. So very important in the Chinese educational structure. So that was great because what Parachute Express music was doing was teaching English as a way of, you know, through music. I continued that. I got the blessing from Donnie and Janice, and I started to tour. And for the last 10 years, up to 2019, I was doing up to 60 tours, 60 shows a tour, doing
Wow.
summer tour and winter tour. I was gone 4 months out of the year. And talk about having the support of my wife. Oh my God. You know, it's like Althea was taking care of my home, my life, everything here, and she was working on all the contracts for my tours.
Jeez.
It was amazing.
You're great.
And then 2019, the COVID hit, and everything shut down. So I haven't been there in 4 years. The kids that I used to sing for are all in college right now, and
Time for your adult show.
that's right. You got it, John.
Perfect.
You got it. That's
Perfect
exactly right.
timing.
It's like, hey, I'm back in, you know, I'm back where the whole thing started, kind of.
I saw back when you were touring in China, you would send some videos back and whatnot. Would you incorporate performers over there, or was it strictly a solo show?
No, I would let everybody in Gymboree, the owners and the promoters know what songs I was doing, and they would put together dancers, and we would meet the day before the show or the
Mhm.
morning of the show, and I would choreograph with them. I would work with them.
Wow,
They all knew the songs. They all knew the Parachute Express songs: "Build My House," "Butterfly," "Walking in My Neighborhood." When I and then songs from my albums, my 4 albums that I did. So I would send them those and say, "Here's where I'd like to have dancers."
yeah,
There's a song called well, "Butterfly" was the best because we had beautiful, beautiful costumes as only the Chinese can put
yeah, the
together.
scarves and all the
Scarves,
great
yeah,
stuff.
and then there
Yeah,
was ladybug, butterfly, and honeybee, and I had all them, and they were surrounding me, and it was, I was playing to thousands of children, um, and the shows were just wonderful. I was going to rural areas where I was Gymborees were starting to open up, and I would play to 400 or 500 people there. But the bigger cities, Shanghai, Beijing, Tianjin, those were thousands and thousands of families. And you know what's really cool? I experienced the love of the Chinese people for sure,
yeah.
separate from the government. But um, uh, I really experienced that. I was when I was doing the shows, I would look out and I'd see these beautiful children with colorful, they would dress up
Mhm.
as almost better than I was on stage. Uh, and they were a lot of them were with their grandparents. That was
Wow.
incredible
Yeah.
to me because the parents usually had to, in some cases, had to be working. And the grandparents took care of the children and they would take them to the shows. And so I would see a lot of elderly people, elderly grandparents, Nai Nai Cheyeye, as they call them, Nai Nai, Grandma,
Yeah.
Cheyeye,
Yeah. Yeah.
Grandpa.
Oh, that's sweet.
It's beautiful. I ended up writing a song called Grandma and Grandpa, and I honored the grandparents when I was there. I would play that every time.
Maybe I move too fast sometimes, and maybe you move too slow. But you do your best to keep up with me wherever I go. I want you to know, Grandma and Grandpa, Grandma and Grandpa, I love you. And I want to shout it, tell all the world that I
Beautiful,
do.
beautiful. So when you left the theater, the people in the field, did they say, "He's royalty. You are a rock star," but in Chinese, of course.
It did feel like that. It did
Yeah.
feel like they recognized that I was, first of all, an American,
Yeah.
and that was very unusual,
Yeah.
for their children to see. And then, of course, that I was sharing our language with them, so that their children could pick up on that. And I believe that the Chinese people, I don't know, I know the climate's pretty crazy right now, but truly believe that the Chinese people have a very have an interesting fascination with America, with everything American.
Yeah.
I would talk to many of the people who were bringing me there, and many of the promoters and the teachers, the young teachers, and they would talk to me. They would say, "Tell me about Friends, the TV show Friends,"
TV show, yeah.
because they thought that's how American people lived, in a conglomeration of, a house with what's Phoebe like, and is Joey really, they would ask questions like that. It was very
They
interesting.
do they do every episode by heart, probably, right?
Totally, totally. It was so cool.
That is really great. Well, you want to talk about it, intercultural awareness. That's the way to do it. I know we had a
Yeah.
program in the LA Unified School District where we bring multicultural elements into, but there is a difference of going to the place where the people live and giving another perspective and incorporating, as you did, elements of their show. I love that story about the grandparents and it, it's they don't lock people away there in the family. They're a family unit, and everybody in that family takes care of each other, as it is done in other cultures.
Sure.
Uh, my house, it was, who are you? That was a very different type of, it was kind of new each and every day. Well, here's a Johnny on the spot moment for you. Three things that have happened so far in your life that are absolutely the best things that you, and it's not, I'm not talking about the day you bought your boat and the day you sold your boat,
I understand.
and you better keep Althea in that mix. So you're on the spot.
Wow. Um, that is on the spot because I have so many of those wonderful moments that it made me who I am. And I would say my marriage to Althea, is
Ding, good one.
one of the biggest ones. Thank you. And it because it was a rainbow of when I divorced my first wife. I didn't see that life was going to get any better, and it did. It
Mm.
got way better. So I'd say that was it. Um, I would say having that moment, taking out my trash and meeting
Yeah.
Donnie Becker and having him ask me if I would help him put together music for a program that changed the trajectory of my life and put me in front and center, in front of children and
So
music.
would you say that every time that you take out the trash, you think of Donnie?
I do.
We could make that
We
assumption.
can make that assumption.
I think
Yes.
I think that's a pivotal moment in your life. Absolutely. You've got one more left.
Yes.
Of many, by the way. We're just culling it down, so it's there's a million.
I would say meeting Elvis Presley at his hotel room at the uh,
Okay, well,
at
we're
the
gonna have to
MGM Grand
expound
Hotel.
on that.
So this was when I was just finished my album with RCA, and they had asked me if I would like to go see Elvis in Vegas as a perk. And so they flew me up there, and I took my mom and dad rather than my girlfriend at the time.
Yeah.
Uh, I took my mom and dad because I thought they would be so proud and excited. So we went there, and I hope I'm not making this too long. I don't know how much time we have,
No,
but I
no,
think
it's
it's a fun.
you know
It's a
what? It's not about the length. It's everything is interesting and wonderful, and every story takes on its own shape and length. So no problems at all. I'm not feeling
great,
pressured.
perfect. I just didn't know if we had a timing thing. So we fly there. We see the show. This was 1972, I think, maybe
Uh,
72, 70. Yeah, 72. Because no. When did my album come out? No, 70. I'm sorry. It was 1975 because my album came out in
so he's in
74.
residency in Vegas.
Right, exactly. And so we're there, and in the middle of he's doing this incredible show, and he stops the show, and he says, "There's somebody I'd like to introduce who's in the audience." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, is he going to introduce me?" And I'm looking at my mom and dad, and he says, "This is somebody who was instrumental in my career early on." And I was like, "Oh, well, it's not me." And he
Yeah.
introduces Wolfman Jack, who's in the audience.
Wow.
And Wolfman Jack stands up and the lights go out, shine on him.
Yeah.
And apparently he had been playing records of Elvis's when the most of the radio stations were thinking that it was black music,
Yeah.
and they wouldn't put it on. And Wolfman did, and sort of launched things for Elvis. So they had never met. So that was a moment where Elvis is on stage and he's acknowledging this guy. What's ironic is that about 2 weeks before, I was at Knott's Berry Farm doing a concert,
Uh,
and uh, Wolfman Jack was the host. So I had met Wolfman there. So when the show was over, I went as if I wanted to see if I was on a guest list so that maybe I could go backstage.
yeah.
I go there, and nobody told me I could. Nobody said I was, but I went there and I told my parents to hold on. I said, "Stay here." I go to this place where there's an officer there and somebody with a book, and right behind me walks Wolfman Jack. And he sees me and we bump into each other and he goes, Stephen. I said, Wolfman, this was amazing. You're here. And he said, yes. And meanwhile, the guy with the book goes, are you two together? And I say, yes, it's Stephen Michael Schwartz, RCA Records. And he looks and he goes, well, you're together with Wolfman. I don't think I was on that book list, but because I was with Wolfman, they just
You're
let us.
in.
We're
Perfect.
in. So the two officers took us up to the catacombs. We went up to about, I don't know, the penthouse, and the door opens up, and it's like the waters had parted. There were a bunch of people.
Oh,
Yeah, there were a bunch
lights.
of people standing around the elevator, and they moved out of the way, and they're sitting on this big. It looked like a throne. Was Elvis? He had a towel wrapped around him. His hair was wet. He had looked like he'd just showered, and
Yeah.
he's there. And Wolfman and his daughter was there. He had brought his daughter with him.
Baby Wolf.
Baby Wolf, yeah. Wolfie, I think they called him. And anyway, we are standing there in front of Elvis sitting down, and he stands up and goes over and gives Wolfman a huge hug. And that I'm looking at rock and roll history.
Yeah.
There's no question about
Yeah.
it. And I'm also feeling the feeling of I'm where I should be. I'm where I should belong. This is it. So and then Elvis turns to me and he said, and I sort of step up like I'm meeting the Pope, you know. I go,
Yeah.
Mr. Presley, I am so honored. My name is Stephen Michael Schwartz, and I'm a new artist on RCA Records. And he looks at me and he goes, "You're new on the label?" I said, "Yes, sir, I am." He said, "You got a long way to go, boy."
Oh
And
man.
everybody in the all of his friends and everything, they start laughing at me.
Yeah.
So I shook his hand, and then I remembered my parents were sitting down in the in the dining area. So I said, I've got to go. And that was the biggest mistake I made. I should have just hung in there.
Yeah.
And there were no cell phones, so I couldn't call my parents. So I just got back in. The officers led me back down. And there was my mom and dad. My mom looked like she was about to clean up the dishes of the and I just told them the story. Anyway, that was a magical moment for me. I will never, ever, ever forget.
See, there's three moments of on the spot, and there's many more. You know, the adventures, the sliding doors moments in our life of do we go this way or that way? And a lot of times the path is laid for you.
Yes.
Just take that step forward and move on down the road. And I always I say to, I don't always, periodically people will say, "Oh, I wish I was like so and so." I said, "Well, you might want to wait and see the entire arc of the situation, because as wonderful as it was, I'm sure that Elvis in his end days would have liked a few more shots at it. But be that as it may, our and that's what I find really interesting about these interviews is everybody has a story to tell. They're unique, and if you think that you don't, your story is not unique, then just pay attention for a while, because things can turn on a dime. Just like taking out the garbage and talking to Donnie, or the record label. Your life could change with a phone call.
Correct. Or a calling card.
A calling card, because that is where it's at.
Yes.
And
you're right, John. And one thing I will say, I will add to that, and that is that nobody gets out unscathed. It's
true.
not all uphill or downhill. It's not all
Yeah.
magical. And, like I thought when I was 21 and I got the record deal, I thought, I made it.
Here we are. Yeah.
Sorry, it doesn't work
Just
that
like
way.
we thought when we were at the record plant. This is
Yes,
it. Well, that wasn't so hard. Now was it? And yeah, I remember being in the studio and we're making our album with our songs, and Joe Walsh said, "Oh, we just got our tapes. It's going to be a single, and nobody's heard it yet." And he plays Rocky Mountain Way.
Wow.
And we're going, "Oh my, what?" It was just like, "Dun it, dun it,"
Oh my gosh.
It was in the
Iconic.
studio with these speakers and the sound, and Dwayne Allman had recently passed, and his road manager was saying, you know, Joe's is probably gonna be the next Dwayne Allman, you know, slide guitar playing and
Yep.
this and that, and it's just wonderful stuff. Speaking of playing,
Yes.
and would you like to play us out with a tune? We haven't done this on Johnny on the Spot yet, so you know, play something that's PD.
Absolutely.
Public domain.
Public
get it?
domain. I get
You
it.
get it? What I just okay. By the way, I love this guitar. Stephen Michael Schwartz. It has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, and I'm feeling that you're gonna have to come back at some point, because what happens after these interviews is I think, oh, I should have asked, oh, I didn't ask, but whatever it is. What are you gonna play for us on the way out here?
This is off of which album is this? I think this is Bucket of Wow. It's my second solo album, and I wrote it in China. And actually, on the album is a woman I co-wrote it with who is Chinese. Her name is Lily Wan, and she's singing with me on this on the recording of it. So you won't hear her; you'll just hear me.
If I do hear her, then I've got other issues.
That's right.
Okay.
Some days I stand up tall, and sometimes I feel so small. When the world looks scary, I've got my sanctuary surrounding me with gentle love. Some days I'm filled with light, but sometimes it's dark as night. The situations vary, but in my sanctuary there's only room for gentle love. Right here I feel so safe and warm. This is my shelter from the storm. And when I'm sad and blue, I know what to do. The world is not that scary. In my sanctuary, surrounding me with gentle love, gentle love. Being with you, John,
Yes.
it's been gentle love.
Beautiful. Beautiful song. Beautiful
you,
song.
Johnny.
Ladies and gentlemen, Stephen Michael Schwartz. There's only one, because two would be one too many. And thanks for being on Johnny on the Spot. Thanks for sharing all those wonderful stories. And please say hello to your lovely wife, Althea,
Oh, thank you, Johnny.
and
Absolutely.
all of the above. So thanks
Let's do this
buddy.
again.
We
I
will.
love it.
We are definitely going to do this again.
Congratulations on the show. I know it's going to be a big success.
Thank you very much.
Take care, my friend.
And that was Johnny on the Spot. Don't forget to like and subscribe.